I'm Josh with Waupaca Community Media, and we are back again for our Waupaca update with Ron Sari from the School District of Waupaca and Aaron Jensen from the City of Waupaca. And we'll get right into it. We are smack dab in the second half of May, and that means we're headed toward the end of the school year. We got graduation, scholarship recognitions, all sorts of different things going on as the students and staff look forward to summer.
Yeah, it is a busy month. It's kind of like December is a very busy month with all the Christmas programs. May is the same with a lot of programs, but also some big capstones for kids in the school district. The first on Friday of this week is the National Honor Society induction, 7 o'clock at the auditorium. Then we have a scholarship recognition. That's on May 30th at 8 a.m. at the high school auditorium, and a senior walk on May 31st at 9:30 in the morning at the WLC, and then moving over to the middle school. And of course, the really big one is graduation on Wednesday, May 31st as well, 7 in the evening at the high school gym. And we have a couple of other celebrations of excellence. The CEC recognizing their 8th graders moving on to the high school on June 5th at 5:30, and the 8th grade middle school promotion on June 6th at 7 o'clock at the middle school gym. So lots of stuff going on, Josh.
Very cool, and congratulations to all the students graduating and receiving scholarships and awards and all that toward the end of the year as well. Anyone who's been downtown notices a chain link fence up around the former St. Mary Church. And Tuesday evening, City Council got to hear a presentation from the developers on that site, who are both removing that structure and will be putting some new apartments in. And the deconstruction process is being done quite respectfully and reclaiming a lot of those materials.
Yeah, last night, Josh, the city finalized a development agreement with the developers on that property, and it's going to result in a 30-unit apartment complex building. It's going to be more of like an urban design, a little different product than we've had here in the past. But you alluded to something that I think is really important to touch on, and anytime a building like that goes away, we totally understand there's a sentimental value to a lot of people. And the developers are really doing a nice job to be sensitive to that fact and kind of appreciate what that building has been and hopefully carry pieces of it forward into the future. So I think it's important to give a little timeline too, Josh. That building's been vacant for over 20 years. Over time, there's been multiple efforts to send out requests for proposals to see if it could be reutilized in its current form for a different use and save the building. And ultimately, as people looked at it and put the numbers together, it was always kind of a no. The numbers just didn't work. We even had a community nonprofit, the Arts Board. They also looked at it, did a feasibility study from a fundraising standpoint, and thought it would be a really neat space for providing the Arts Hub, which they now do in the Methodist Church, which is great, but it didn't work at that site. And over time, it became, a little bit of a magnet for some unwanted activity. Some police activity had to be there more often, and ultimately became a kind of a spot of blight. So, having said all that, though, the developers are working with a company called Recycling out of the Milwaukee area. And what they do, it's not just a straight demolition and put it in the landfill. They deconstruct piece by piece parts of that building, and they reuse well over 95% of all the material in taking that down, and either sell it to nonprofits or for-profits or whatever, but the material goes to other uses, which is really neat. And it takes a long, it's a 2-month process rather than a couple-day process, and it costs more money, but felt like it was important for this site. And then the other really important thing to note is that they're going to be reutilizing some of that beautiful stone on the outside and using it as some facade in the new product. So you'll see a decent amount of that stone on the new building. And if you want to go to the city council meeting last night on Facebook, you'll see some probably renderings of that if the public's interested. And it'll be a neat touch. So yeah.
Very cool. And it's gonna, sometimes you get to keep tradition, like with the Danes Hall getting reworked, and sometimes you lose tradition and get something new to enhance and make your downtown a little bit different. And this is the latter of that. So
Right. Well said.
This Saturday is a Brainards Bridge Park work day.
Yeah, and it looks like the weather's going to be fantastic. So the Friends of Waupaca Parks and the Park and Rec Department is organizing a work day. It's going to be at Brainards Bridge, as you mentioned, May 20th at 9 a.m. and work will conclude at noon. By the time if you're afraid of a little work, but really I've been to some of these before, really don't get started till about 9:30 and you get done at like 11:45 and you start eating lunch. So it's not a full 3 hours of work. Come and help out for 2.5 hours. Bring your gloves. Spreading wood chips on an area of the trail that really needs it. And it makes a big difference. So good community building, good volunteer opportunity, and it looks like it's going to be great weather. So I would encourage anyone to come help out our friends of the parks.
So Ron, one thing we want to touch on with the school district is raises for staff and some staffing resources as well. No secret to anyone, the inflation out there and what that's doing to the CPI is hard to keep up with, and the school district is looking to give staff a 5% raise. But also with that, you're monitoring resources and student enrollment and making some decisions where the staffing's best being utilized, or maybe what's not needed in the short term here as your student numbers change.
Well, you put that very well, Josh. Thank you.
Trying to juggle what you talked about.
Yeah, the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, came in at 8%. And so as we look last year, we gave the Consumer Price Index to our staff as a raise, 4.7%. We were able to do that, and it was sustainable. We were able to figure that we could continue funding that amount. This 8%, we can't, it is not sustainable for our district. I'd love for us to be able to give our staff an 8% raise just because of attraction and retention of staff. We want to pay our people good as we compete with other districts, but as we crunch the numbers, we cannot do that. The most that we can do is 5%. And so you have that factor. And last week I spoke about the bond selling of our bonds and the rating that this independent organization Moody's gave to our district. They gave our district a AAA as far as the business office got a AAA rating, living within our budget, setting a budget, not doing short-term borrowing, not having to go to operational referendums. I mean, we fund all of the maintenance in our district through our budget, and we have a 15-year plan. We don't have to go to the community and say, hey, help us keep our buildings up through a referendum like that, or help us pay our staff through an operational referendum. We haven't done that, and we don't plan to do that. And so in order to do that, Josh, you got to look at every position. We've lost in the last 5 years 112 kids enrollment in our school district. And as far as classroom teachers, we're only down 2. But what we do is every time there's an opening, no matter where in our organization, we analyze it and we try to see if we can meet the needs without refilling it or doing repurposing or changing things around. We're going to be creating a position, an English language learner position for our Spanish speaking population that's come in. Been influxed with students and families that can't speak English, and our staff has shown in the school perception survey that, hey, we don't feel supported. We don't feel that we have enough training to effectively work with this language barrier. So, we've got to go and create a position for that, and our budget has to support that. But then, for instance, we have 2 teachers right now at the WLC who are going to leave the district for personal reasons. And if they didn't, because of the declining enrollment at the WLC, it may have came to a point where administration would have had to possibly lay 2 people off because of the student decrease and the class sizes. So we're always looking at that, just like with this library position. I know there are some people that are upset that we're looking at going from 2 librarians across the district to 1, even though we do have library aides in our library, each of the school's libraries. Going from 2 to 1 is something that as an organization, we look at the curriculum and we look at the standards and we see how we can do some things differently and use that money to help with other pieces of the pie or the puzzle in our district that a lot of people don't think about. And they may not know about it, they may not care about it. They're looking at it from whatever lens that they have. And we're, as the board and as administration, trying to live within our means, be good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars, do the best we can with our kids, keeping everybody safe and teaching the curriculum and our targets. So a lot goes into it. We believe that we can give a 5% raise if we live within our means, and it may mean some positions not being filled through attrition. You know, if we have to squeeze our staff and lower the number of individuals employed in the district, we would rather do that through attrition instead of having to issue layoff notices. That's not what we want to do. And so when those opportunities for attrition arise, the school district of Waupaca, like most organizations, try to take advantage of that. So yeah, that's a quick version of what takes place at the board level and administrative level.
And I think it's good having the full story, because some people just might hear, hey, a couple teachers are leaving and not getting replaced, and think it's, it may not be a good thing, but now they know why. And one of the positives I heard is you're getting that teacher to help the Spanish students, which is a positive. So you might have 1 or 2 less people somewhere else, but you're filling another need too.
Yeah, and we also, through the ESSER dollars that we receive from the feds, we have to, or what we did is we created 2 positions, reading interventionists, and that those dollars, they call it a funding cliff. It was only a 2-year period, and that is coming to an end. And we believe that keeping one of them is very important for the reading instruction that needs to take place for the learning gap that occurred from COVID. So there's a lot of things in the mix and a lot of things that get looked at, considered, and analyzed as we as administration make a recommendation for the board and then provide a rationale of why to support that recommendation of what is in the best interest overall for all of the buildings in our district, for our students, and to be good consumers of the taxpayer dollars for this big investment into our school district.
Appreciate the insight into everything going on and the decisions, so the community's more informed about what actions they may see in the future. We'll jump back to Aaron. Lakeman Field, that's been a project talked about for a while. New lighting out there, some new poles for that lighting, along with some other upgrades. And this is the week that they kind of formally pushed their fundraising efforts out. And the baseball team itself, the Lakeman, made a significant donation to kick that off.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. I want to hit on 2 primary points. One is that really the focus of the fundraising initially is, though there's a big master plan, the master plan is created to make sure that we're not taking steps and then having to redo steps, pay more money because we did it in the wrong order or did it without consideration of future projects. But really the focus right now is those lights. Those lights were put on poles that were, I think, taken from WPS in 1970 something, and they were used then. So over time, those poles rot, they become a safety issue, and just recognizing that we want to upgrade that. Not only that, but over time, the light bulbs themselves, they get dimmer and dimmer. When you play Little League baseball or amateur baseball, there are certain standards of lighting that really need to be met for meeting the safety thresholds, and Lakeman Field has fallen underneath that. So it's an important project. That baseball field gets used by a lot of teams, Lakeman, Legion, Babe Ruth, the high school every now and then. So, we're excited that that fundraising effort has started, and we're super excited and grateful for the Lakeman's donation. They kind of had the first big donation to kick it off. They had a $10,000 donation towards it, which, as one of our aldermen who's been a part of Lakeman for 50 plus years mentioned last night, that's a very large chunk of what they have in their budget. They have to pay for their operating. None of the players get paid. None of the managers get paid. They have to pay for all the umpires and all that out of their own funds. And that was a great and generous gift to kind of get the thing kicked off. And our Park and Rec department's working hard on continuing that. So.
And if you want to learn more about the project or how to donate, you can go to cityofwaupaca.org, and information has been posted this week. And then we want to close out with some congratulations going out to the varsity baseball team who received some WIAA recognition.
Yeah, I'm so happy and pleased with this, and so should everybody as well. It isn't that often where an umpire writes to the WIA with a tremendous compliment, and that happened. The WIA contacted us this week and talked about our varsity boys baseball players and coaches. There was a game at Lakeman Field on May 4th against Little Chute that the Comets played, and I'll just it's kind of almost like a quote here. What the ref sent to the WIA about our team and our coaches and players. They said, administrators should be very proud of the varsity baseball program, both the players and the coaches, for their display of positive sportsmanship during the recent contest. And they named two of our players, Riley Beckard and Zach Mandello, that they're leaders of their team, especially showing respect for the opponents, as well as helping retrieve bats and foul balls during the contest, which they didn't have to. They offered many encouraging words to everybody involved, including on the other team, and were noticeably appreciative of the coaches, the teammates, and the umpires. And so I just wanted to say, great job. It's nice that our coaches and our athletes are getting that kind of positive recognition. And it's a tribute to the teachers and the kids and their parents as well. And it's a tribute to our community, I think, as well, too.
Absolutely great news to close out this week's update.
All right. Thanks, Josh.
Ron, Aaron, appreciate the time, and we will talk again soon.
Thanks, Josh.
See ya.